For leader in general, I am looking for someone who is hungry to learn. As I said earlier around AI, I think people who have the ability to learn new things are far more important than me than someone who comes with a specific set of skill and expertise.
Yeah.
It's changing so fast. I think on the sales side specifically, I read a couple years ago, Adam Grant's Give or Take, and he gives an example of the most successful salespeople are givers, not takers, even though the stereotype of a salesperson is the taker thought. And I think that I'm looking for someone who, as a sales leader, wants to build meaningful relationships and who wants to solve the problems of their customers and partners and meaningfully do so, not someone who's just trying to get the next check in.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Business of Learning podcast. My guest here today is Brooke McKean, who is the co-CEO and president at Reach Pathways. Brooke, thank you so much for being here. Welcome to the podcast.
Great to be here. Great to connect.
Yeah, I'm excited to have this conversation, especially because of the introduction that you gave me about Reach Pathways, what you guys are all about. So why don't we start off with you telling everyone a little bit more about Reach Pathways, how the company even started, and what you guys are all about.
Yeah, so Reach Pathways, we have a unique structure and approach. So we were actually spun out of a nonprofit called Chicago Scholars with the goal of extending our impact. We are a social enterprise, a for-profit with a mission purpose. And we were created really to help young people from under-resourced backgrounds navigate their college and career journey. We provide that scaffolding of the next step, particularly for young people who don't have someone in their lives to help them with their journey. We just raised our seed round at 1.99 million. So proud of that at a time where it's really hard to fundraise. Thank you.
100%.
So really excited to shift from investor calls to partnership calls. And we've had really great traction and progress with the platform so far and seeing some really steady growth.
Awesome. Amazing. And thank you for sharing that. I would love for you to also dig in a little bit on the AI side of things. When we first had our conversation, you were explaining Reach to me. I was I'll use the word flabbergasted because I think it's so great to hear, excuse me, an initiative where there's a lot of AI education to prepare the future generation into a career and a world in which that's going to be so huge and vastly dominated in every single industry. So would you be able to share a little bit more about that and what you guys are doing in the AI front to help these students reach fulfill the careers that they're looking for in the future?
Yes. So I'm so passionate about this topic. I believe that we are in an industrial revolution-like moment and the world is changing dramatically. What entry-level jobs and jobs in general will look like are changing so fast. And what history has told us time and again is that people from under-resourced backgrounds lose out on these moments of change and transition. So I'm really trying to think about how can Reach be a tool to prepare the next generation for the future of work. A way that we're doing that is we have kind of gamify the college and career journey and then personalized quests and recommendations to young people with AI. But we're also building out a competency pathway focused on AI fluency that helps young people not just like use the tools, because let's face it, 2 weeks from now, the tools will change.
Yeah.
But how to learn, how to work in a constantly changing environment, how to be prepared and try new things and really go through that iterative cycle to think about your work differently on a weekly basis.
That's awesome. And I believe you mentioned in our last conversation that you have about around like 2,000 users so far. Is that correct? Has that number increased or changed so far? Or is that kind of the range?
Past the 2,000 mark. And we have, what I'm most proud of our product sets is that we have 20% of users who are joining through friend referrals. Doesn't happen with EdTech tools. So friends are telling each other about it and they're joining the platform and accessing resources. And I think that's a sign we're on the right track.
Yeah, 100%. And I would love to hear from the feedback that you've had so far from the users, the students, as they go through the platform. What are some of the things that they're really taking with them? Like, oh, this is like a huge piece of value that I'm taking for myself. I find this part of the tool, the part that I enjoyed the most, or that's helping me the most. What are some of the things you're hearing?
Yeah, it's an interesting range, I think, depending on where a student is at on their journey. If they're oftentimes younger or not younger, but still not sure what they want to do, we have a lot of foundational career exploration resources to help understand self and understand how that can map to different career pathways. And so that's and mapping out to what we called our skills tree, which is kind of this journey that helps young people build skills foundationally with starting with self. And that for certain, I say persona of our users is really valuable. For others, that know what they want to do, and they just need to like get their resume ready, get their interviews going. They really like the tools that allow them to practice their interviews, to refine and apply for unique job opportunities. We're also seeing students who enjoy the gamification. And I think the comment we get a lot is an appreciation that our team and our content reflects the identities of the people that we're serving.
Interesting. That's awesome. It also sounds to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds to me like there's a full immersion on the student sides as well to be able to practice these things. As you said, go through the interviews, do the practice sessions, and fully be fully intentional with the actions that they're taking in the platform so that it actually reflects with what they do in real life, as opposed to, yeah, a little game here, a little game there, and it's fun, but it doesn't actually achieve anything. Does that sound about right? Or
Yeah, and some of our quests aren't just like gamification. It's like go out in real life and interview, appear in a leadership role, and this is how you do it, and hear from someone who just did it themselves and what that experience was like. So
awesome.
it's about those real tangible tasks, both in real life and on the platform, that help young people build skills and then map and see their journey along the way.
That's very, very cool. And you mentioned that 20% is coming from referrals, word of mouth, from people that really enjoy the platform and send it over to their friends, family, whatever it might be. What about the other 80%? Where's that coming from for you guys?
So a little over half is through partnership, through nonprofit organizations, schools, and colleges that we're working with to bring students onto the platform. So they tell their students about it, like sessions, emails, that sort of thing. And then the remaining is kind of a wide mix of social media, web search, and other sorts of sources, which is great to see because we haven't pushed our marketing strategy yet. We're in the process of really building that out, and I'm hoping to see that grow over the next couple months.
Awesome. Very, very cool. And I would love to dig into the conversation where funding can be very tough anytime, but especially now, where times are a little bit weary for everybody. You guys have still managed to raise just under $2 million. So I would love to hear from you throughout that entire process. What do you think were some of the biggest challenges of trying to raise a seed round, and what advice would you give to any other entrepreneur who also has a startup who is looking to pursue that path and raise some funding for their business, in some of the best practices that they can make to maybe increase their chances of success?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's hard. It's hard out there, and we didn't go the traditional VC route. We did talk to those folks, but most of our round is individuals and nonprofits actually are excited about this. So it's a little bit unique how we came to be, but in this process, I talked to a lot of people, including the VC space, and I think one of my learnings is it's just a whole nother vocabulary. I think what investors want to hear, and coming from a nonprofit space, just learning what the expectations are and how to pitch. But I think it's more than that, because even if you say all the right words, you're still not enough. Like they say, they invest ridiculously early, but the reality is they want to see traction and progress and revenue, particularly in this environment. They want to know that their bets are going to lead to returns, and people want to invest in companies that are already winning, not on really good ideas. As much as I think they say otherwise, I think particularly with our team being led by women of people of color, like we're just like another risk factor and a different set of lived experiences than your traditional startup leaders. I think that's why we're going to win, but I think that makes us a little scary to some folks.
Interesting. So big takeaway from that entire experience in approaching, what's the advice that you would say to anybody who is also looking to pursue a possible funding round, if it's the way that you guys did it, or maybe the private equity VC route?
My biggest piece of advice is don't get discouraged. Keep trying. They say it's 100 no's to get one yes, maybe even 1,000.
Yeah.
And that's part of it. And you, rather than see that as just like another exhausting thing that you have to do, see it as an opportunity to be really good at pitching your business and really learn and iterate, because that's what you're going to need for sales and continue growth.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. And what you just said there, excuse me, which is the 100 no's to get to the yes. It always reminds me of, I believe is Colonel Sanders, that had he went to like 300 or 600 something banks to try to get some loans. And everybody said no, but once they said yes, we all know what KFC is now. So it's just like that consistency, but most important, the persistence of always pushing and keep trying, and believing in what you do, having that conviction as well, which is, I think, sometimes the most important thing as well. And as you guys are looking to keep growing, Brooke, from the growth lens, I guess, putting the growth or the chief growth officer hat on, what do you think are the biggest obstacles in pursuing this growth for the company as you're looking to do you mentioned the marketing strategy or whatever pathway that you guys are going to move forward with? What are some of the biggest obstacles or hurdles that could get in the way of achieving those things and keeping the company growth coming?
Yeah, one of the questions that I'm really wrestling with right now is, there's a lot of different potential markets and customers that we have. We can sell to nonprofits, to colleges, to high schools, and also to employers for early career talent. And do we stretch thin and capture as many different market opportunities as possible, or do we narrow and pick one and get really good at that? And I think there's mixed advice and opinions on where to focus and how. But I think for me, I think a potential opportunity and challenge for us is like picking the right ideal customer profile and getting really good at turning those positive conversations into revenue, especially when we have a lot of customers with a slower, longer sales cycle. So a lot of conversations before you get to a yes, and really documenting that process.
Interesting. So I just want to make sure I understand that correctly. So it's kind of that debate internally into, hey, first, what's the type of company the type of customer that we're going after? Is it if it's going to be enterprise, if it's going to be the individual level, if it's either, what actual aspects we're actually going after, what type of companies? Is it the NGOs? Is it whatever else on the enterprise level, or is it this type of demographic if it's the individual level? So it's just kind of having that back and forth balancing. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think that is a good way to put it. And I've been lucky that as we talk to people, a wide range of potential customers want to use our tool for their students, which means we've had more product applications than originally intended, which is great, but we can't be stretching ourselves too thin across too many different types of customers.
And that makes sense. So even though the end users, of course, the individuals, the students that are pursuing the career, the actual relationships, the working relationships that you guys have are with the companies, the organizations that feeds that down into them. So it's a B2B model to clarify.
Yes, the revenue model is B2B. We're not going to charge students tax. We are a mission first enterprise. And also there is a lot of value in having more users on the platform. So why limit that?
Yeah, 100%. No, it's great. It's great to have that clarification as well. And as you're going through, I'm not sure if you have mentors. Do you have any mentors that come to mind if I say that word to you for yourself and what you're building?
I mean, so many incredible mentors on this journey. I'm coming from the nonprofit world into this for-profit space. I had so much to learn. I joined the Chicago Innovation Mentoring Program, which was fantastic. And our investors are incredible mentors. And our board chair, Oliver Bevan, is at McKinsey. He's made such great advice. Tim Shortfigure is one of our investors and founders of Chicago Scholars. And he just shares so many words of wisdom for me on this journey. So I am really grateful that there are a number of brilliant people who want to see us win and who give their time to help us succeed.
That's amazing. And I would love to hop onto that train then and ask you, I always love to hear some advices or some pieces of just sometimes it's not even advice. Sometimes it's a specific quote that a person says in a conversation. You're like, oh, that just sticks with them and they hold it really tight to their chest into the way that they take any future action or the way that they plan or the way they do anything. Is there a specific quote or a specific piece of advice that comes to mind when you're always trying to build or work through an obstacle or trying to strategize? Is there anything that you really hold close to you that came from a mentor that comes to mind as well?
Two come to mind. One is that we learn the most from our hardest moments. And I have to remind myself that a lot because the entrepreneurial journey is not easy.
Not fun either.
And I try to always reframe those challenges as opportunities for learning and growth to be better and stronger. And the second for me is one I say a lot, and our team continues to repeat it, which is the first pancake isn't good. That's
So good.
Yourself that the first try is not as good as the last, and so you got to keep trying.
I love that. That's awesome. The first pancake is not good. I've heard that in different ways, but I like that. I like that analogy. Is there anything specific that you wish you knew before you started this entire entrepreneurial journey, or?
Oh man. I think the piece of advice that someone gave me early on, that I that continues to hold true, and I share with folks who think about career changes over time, or changing sectors.
Mhm.
80% of it is the same, but with different
Mhm.
themes, and 20% of it is different.
Mhm.
And I think that if I had reminded myself of that on this journey, I think it would have given me some more comfort,
Mm.
because I think I feel this pressure to like become an expert and know everything, and but I know so much already, and I can apply all of that to what I do, from the
Mhm.
expertise that I've built over the years. And so,
Mhm.
um, continuing to remind myself that I have that foundation to be successful, and I can learn new things.
We often need to be reminded more than we need to be taught. I think it's something that we're so guilty of all the time, especially as business leaders, founders of companies. Of hey, how can we make sure that we actually push this thing forward? There's a lot of weight on our shoulders. There's a lot of things, people that are relying on us. But oftentimes, it's like, hey, just remember the basics, go through it, do it again, iterations, consistency, persistence, and everything will work out fine. But it's just that reminder process of getting those things back together over and over and over again. And I wanted to ask you, as you're looking towards solving that problem that you mentioned, which is finding out who that specific ICP you're going to be going after is. What are some of the things that are being worked through your mind of identifying that specific ICP and making sure that they are the right fit, to then when the strategies come along, you're actually implementing it in the right avenue as opposed to the wrong one. So what are some of the ways that you're strategizing or thinking about making these decisions or finding out that information?
So it's a mix of data analysis and conversations in, conversation out, what's leading to the next one,
Mhm.
and really tracking that and leaning into that. But
Mm.
it's also, um, we do a lot of very routine retrospectives on what went well,
Mhm.
what didn't, and why, and how does that change our strategy going forward. And
Mhm.
it's not. I think sometimes we want all the data to be right before we make a decision, and that does not work in a startup. I
Uh-huh.
think you have to. Um,
Mhm.
but you can use the little bit of inputs that you're getting and continue to pivot and respond or react and see, did that work? Did it not? Okay, check again 2 weeks later. Did this work? Did it not? How do we iterate on that? So that's one
Mm.
strategy that we've been applying with refining our ideal customer profile, and we're
Mhm.
seeing a lot of really great progress with um, organizations and schools that are focused on innovation, who see this moment of change as an
Yeah.
opportunity to support their youth, and like that is where we're finding those partnerships. I think we're not winning with those tried and true organizations that are trying to copy and paste, and so we don't need to spend our time
Yeah, that's awesome. Especially the ones that are like, oh, we've always just done it this way. So we're going to keep doing it this way for the next 100 years, just like we've done it for the last 100 years. And it's like, hopefully it works out for you, but it likely won't because everybody has to hop on the new train that's coming, which is the AI and the new everything tech that's happening. So it's interesting. I wanted to ask you a question, Brooke, now that I've been asking everybody that's coming on the podcast. So you will also be a victim of the question, which is this. Let's say you had a magic wand and you could just wave this wand and it would solve one thing in the business. There are oftentimes many priorities that we're trying to fix or work on or put our attention to, but just one thing, a challenge, an obstacle, whatever it might be, that would allow all your growth goals and the targets that you have for the business to happen just like that. What's the one thing that you would like to solve in the business to be able to achieve all the goals that you want?
there. The thing that comes to mind is I wish I could just magic wand shorten the sales cycle. You
Uh,
translating those good conversations just a little bit
hmm,
faster into
mhm.
close. I suppose that's not in the business; it's more outside of my control. But hey, that's what magic wand.
There's always things that can be done to improve it for sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
Huh, interesting. Why is cycle specific? How long is the usual sales cycles for you guys? Like 6, 9 months ish, or
that's about right. Yeah, it's
a
six
bit
to
in
nine months.
in the
Some have
range?
been a little shorter, but
Mhm.
some have been a little longer. But that's been about the average, and it's as we're talking to hundreds of folks. It's like if I could shorten that and have build more meaningful faster, that would certainly be my goal.
Interesting. What do you think are some of the things that would allow you to shorten that up and start improving the process? Is it the relationship building side? Is it the trust building side? Is it something else that you're thinking about that could improve that? Or what are your thoughts?
Part of the challenge of having been on the other side of this is I know how many layers of input are needed to make in a decision within these contexts. And so I think getting the right people in the room as early as possible and taking the time to respond to like a wide range of perspectives. I do see there are some folks who feel that AI is going to take their jobs away and like really tackling that early on. So that's not a barrier.
So educating them on it.
Yeah. Whereas I think the folks at the higher end of the approval, like decision making, see it right away and are ready to change. But you can't implement if you don't have all the layers of an organization.
Yeah, that makes sense. Which also goes back to making sure that the perfect ICP is given so that those conversations actually are as useful as possible. Interesting. Good stuff. I like that answer. And I have one final question here for you, Brooke, which is actually not a question from me. It's a question from our last guest to you. And they had no idea who you were. So are you ready for the question?
Yeah.
Here it is. What is the number one quality that you look for when hiring a leader/sales leader? Because they were a sales company. So given that, so leader/sales leader to give you the most confidence that they will succeed?
For leader in general, I am looking for someone who is hungry to learn. Like as I said earlier around AI, I think people who have the ability to learn new things are far more important than someone who comes with a specific set of skill and expertise.
Yeah.
It's changing so fast. I think on the sales side specifically, I heard a couple years ago, Adam Grant's Give or Take, and he gives an example of the most successful salespeople are givers, not takers, even though the stereotype of a salesperson is the taker thought. And I think that I'm looking for someone who, as a sales leader, wants to build meaningful relationships and who wants to solve the problems of their customers and partners and meaningfully do so. Not someone who's just trying to get the next check in the door.
Yeah. Amazing. I love that answer. And somewhere in here, there is that Give and Take book by Adam Grant as well. I like that book. That book was actually gifted to me a few years back before I even started the company. And as I was in the beginning phases of our company, and I read the book and I was like, I love everything about this entire thing. So thumbs up of approval for me on Give and Take and Adam Grant. But Brooke, thank you so much for your time. This has been such a great conversation. Where should people go if they want to learn a little bit more about you, a little bit more about Reach Pathways, or any other resources that you'd like to share as well?
Yeah, check out our website, www.reachpathways.com. On our blog there, I actually tell my leadership story, so that you can find out more about me there as well. Or LinkedIn is probably the social media space where I'm most active.
Amazing, phenomenal. I will, of course, leave everything down below here if you want to check it out. And if you're still watching until now, please subscribe if you want to hear more conversations about this. And I will see you next time. Take care.